Yep. Can you hear me all right? My timing's a little off. I gotta get all the settings. Let's see. Okay. Mute that. Hello everyone. Good to see some names from some live streamer veterans. Yes, the camera's very blurry. I'm gonna fix that in just a minute. I gotta set up some lights. Yes, how's everyone doing today? Who the beep is talking? So blurry. Alright. I really gotta get some new lights that I can just have dedicated to doing live streams and stuff. Let me see if I can show you. It's so blurry. Such a terrible image. This is my lighting setup. Let me see if I can. Okay, camera, configure, input. Why is the focus right there? That's why it's so blurry. There you go. That's my lighting setup. So, gotta deal with that. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, Ends of Sorrow. That's a game that I made in high school. Can you guys even hear me when I'm talking right here? I don't even know. Ends of Sorrow is a game I made in high school. It's a top-down shooter. I never finished it, but I'm gonna see if I can get the files working again. They're really, really old. And do a Let's Play of it on my YouTube channel. This is so ghetto rigged. Okay, that's one light setup. Let's see. What's it about? It's trying to remember. It's definitely younger, so it was more of a, I don't know, kind of, it's hard to say what the storyline was really about. It was about like a scientist. I can't remember. It was a dumb story. It was about like a scientist, and there's this virus that took over all of the soldiers in the facility or something. I don't. I could attempt to show it to you. I do have one version of it, but it was super glitchy. I need to go back and see because I made it back on like a Windows XP computer, and now I'm running Windows 7, so that's the biggest issue. Wow, 33 people already. That's awesome. Okay, one more light. I want to quickly show you guys this light bulb. This type of light bulb is like both the best and the worst thing in the world of making videos. I think the light bulb itself costs like $3. Maybe it's like $2. It's so cheap. But it's a 300-watt bulb and it's so bright. But it also gets extremely, extremely hot. And it's pretty much a fire hazard. Like, I can't run these lights more than, like, I don't know. I think the most I've ever run them was like an hour at a time, and that was like really pushing it. One time I had like 6 of them plugged in, and it burned a, what did it do? It ended up destroying my router. I had to buy a new router because of that. See, these bulbs are where it's at because they don't get hot. But they're not as bright and they're more expensive. Okay. And I will plug this one in here, I guess. Does that last one even make a difference? I'll turn it on if I need it. Okay. Now to adjust the video settings. I like you can see like 20 of me in the background. I should probably rearrange some stuff. I really should have done this before the live stream. Okay, scale viewport. 50%. Let's bring this down. Okay, wait, I need to be able to see the chat. Dang, 39 people. That's pretty awesome. This thing just started 5 minutes ago. We can catch up on what's been going on the chat since I've been putting the lights up. Air exception. It's an interesting fact about penguins. Okay, let's add a screen region. I believe we can do that. And then we have a chat window, or I can do it. Let's see. Let me actually do it like I used to do it. Let's crop the top in a little bit. Oops. No, I want that to be... I want to rotate it around the y-axis. There we go. XSplit is so hard to use. Okay, now I want to move that behind my head and make it slightly transparent. And then I want to fix the camera so that you can actually read it. Okay, bring the exposure down. Let's bring the brightness up. Let's bring the contrast a little bit down. Color intensity. Okay, that's looking better. White balance, make it a little warmer. Okay, that's almost good. Now let's just make sure I get the right color cut out. Oops, no. That's not right. Try that again. That's better. Dang it. Maybe I do need this light. Yes, I do. How am I going to do this? Is that in the shots? Let's put that just barely out of the shot, if I can. Does that work? Kinda. This is such a pain. Now it's too bright. This is such a pain. I should have started this like an hour early. Sure, why not? Oh. Oh, okay. It was just my aspect ratio. Well, I guess that's one piece of feedback I would give, is that your website tends to mess up at the wrong aspect ratio. But I like that it's nice and clean and simple. I like the gray. I know you're not called Chrome Games anymore, but I like that it still has that like chrome color to it. I think that's cool. It's a nice slider. Yeah, this looks cool. I like this. See your games catalog. Oh, that's basically your home page, right? Yeah, it is. Okay. One thing that I've been doing on my website, or that I'm going to do, is make a list of games. Like right now, it's in the works. Sorry, I just want to fix this. It's bugging me. Okay, let's do that, and then let's see if I can just do that, and then almost. So close. Anyways, I'll fix it as I go. Hover over the games. Ah, okay, I see. That's pretty nice. I do like that. I wonder, is this WordPress or is this like an original website? Okay, WordPress. I love WordPress. But yeah. One thing I would personally like is if you click on the word games, if it takes you to a page where it lists all the games, maybe it gives you like a quick, like small thumbnail screenshot of each game. Maybe, I don't know if it's possible. I know how WordPress works and how it can be tricky with, you know, doing exactly what you want. But it'd be cool if you could get an arrow. Oh, maybe you could just do a symbol on the keyboard. What symbol is it? Oh, wait, no. There's no upside down arrow on the keyboard, is there? Darn, that wouldn't work. I don't know. Oh, it is there? I wonder if it's just my browser. I don't know. How much is hosting and domain? That's hard to say. It depends on a lot of different factors, like what hosting service you go through. It depends on whether you want to pay monthly or yearly or every 3 years. It depends on how much bandwidth. Is it bandwidth or is it like data limit? like how many people can come to your site before it like overloads and crashes. Most of the time you want to go with unlimited just to be safe. I'm trying to think of other factors. The domain name is usually pretty cheap. Most hosting services, I think, give you an option to buy a domain name. But Namecheap is a really cheap place to get a domain name. That's like, I think it's like $10 for a year. So the domain name's really cheap. Actual hosting, that can range, that's probably, I'm going to ballpark that around $60 a year. So it's not too much. You might be able to get it cheaper. But let's see, I saw a question. Okay, what do you need except Unity 3D to export to Ouya? Do you need to buy the Android version or not, or are not? Okay, so what do you need? Do you mean in like regards to Unity? Like how do you make a game in Unity? It's pretty simple. I guess I'll just explain it in Unity unless you say otherwise. Christopher 999. You don't really need much. I mean, Unity Android is now free. Same with Unity iOS. And I believe Windows and BlackBerry phones. I'm not sure about that though. I haven't looked too much into Windows and BlackBerry. Excuse me. But yeah, pretty much the only thing you need to do is just click switch platform. You switch to Ouya. You gotta switch up your controller settings because the Ouya controllers have a different button layout than the Xbox 360 controllers on PC. So you're gonna have to figure out your controller settings. You really just go into, edit, project settings, input, and you just fiddle with all those settings. You need to switch all of your shaders to mobile shaders. Well, you don't have to, but there are certain shaders that just really, really lag, like reflection map shaders and stuff like that. And real-time shadows. There is a way to get real-time shadows on mobile, but I don't know, it's pretty difficult. Let's see, what else? Oh, pixel lights. It's much safer to switch all of your lights to vertex lights as opposed to pixel lights, because pixel lights take up a lot more processing power than vertex lights, but they don't look as good. But I mean, it's mobile. Let's see. I'm trying to think of other changes I had to make. Then you just go into player settings and you do landscape right. That was the only setting that I needed to set inside of player settings. I think that's pretty much it. That's pretty much everything you need to do to go on Ouya. And a USB flash drive. You don't need any license or anything. You just pop it on Ouya and it works. I mean, it's pretty much the same with any kind of like Android phone. So yeah, with Android, you pretty much just pop it in. You find the file with like a file Explorer app, and yeah. What kind of draw calls can it handle? I think it handles draw calls slightly differently. I'm not entirely sure. But if I'll show you this scene behind my head. So you see this school. It's all made up of cubes. So it's really inefficient, and in the end, I'm going to redo all of this and model it the way you're supposed to model things, like with an actual model. But for the meantime, this works fine, and it is 79 draw calls currently. And what I actually did in the past, or recent past, is I copy and pasted the school like 10 or 12 times, and it ran just fine. I was getting like 50 frames per second, almost 60. So yeah, it can handle quite a bit. You just got to figure out, it has certain quirks that it can't handle, like, real-time shadows or reflection maps or pixel lights, things like that. it can also handle a lot of physics. I tested it and I got, I don't know, probably like 100 rigid bodies in the scene, and it was like going at like 30 frames per second with like 100 rigid bodies. So that's pretty good, especially for a mobile device that only cost $100. Did you use Blender? Yes. Well, if you're talking about the school that's behind me right here, half of it is in Blender and half of it is just cubes. So the brick part, most of the brick part was made in Blender. But yeah, Blender is like my go-to modeling program now. I've been using it enough that I'm pretty comfortable with it. Let's see, here's a good question it looks like, since it's in all caps. I'm a beginner and I'm having confusion which game engine I should choose. Unity, UDK, or CryEngine. Please give me correct advice. It depends on what you want to do. Okay, let's start with CryEngine. CryEngine, I like to think of CryEngine as more of something that you would mod. I'd say it's like an updated version of the source engine. Oh, is it really up to 52 viewers now? Wow, that's cool. So think of CryEngine as more of a mod rather than creating your own game. Mods are really cool. So, but let's see. And like licensing is much more difficult with CryEngine. Like if you want to make it like a full release game, it's I don't know exactly what you need to go through, but I know you like I think to get full access, like there's like a consumer version of CryEngine, and then there's like a I don't know if it's like a pro version that you need to get access to, like you need like the company's permission to get it. I could be wrong on that though. I might be remembering the wrong facts. But anyways, in the end, with CryEngine, you're going to create a first-person shooter. So you're basically modding Crysis 3 if you use CryEngine. So if that's what you want to do, cool. Like, but you're not going to be necessarily creating a game. You're going to be creating a mod, which is still very, very relevant to video game design. And if you're like an artist or just a designer, like if you just want to design a short adventure using this already created first-person shooter engine, then CryEngine would be a great choice. UDK. Oh wait. With the free CryEngine, you don't. Oh, you can create the finish.exe. Maybe it's just licensing. I don't know. I guess disregard me on that, the licensing thing, because I don't remember the details of that. But let's move on to UDK. So UDK, or the Unreal Development Kit, kind of like the CryEngine. I'd say UDK is halfway in between Unity and the CryEngine. So UDK, like if you create a new project and you hit play, you're basically playing Unreal Tournament 2003, I believe. Like I think it's that engine. Like they'd added a lot of cool effects and stuff and a lot of advanced things since then. But you like start off and like you have the HUD and the gun from see you later, Mad Johnny, or whoever is leaving. But let's see. I lost my train of thought because I was reading. Okay. Yeah, UDK made Chivalry. Yeah, so UDK, like, you can create games in UDK that aren't a first-person shooter or a third-person shooter. Like, I believe first-person shooters and third-person shooters are very easy to make inside of the Unreal Engine, and it is fully possible to create a non-first-person shooter game, but it takes a little bit more. Sorry, I'm just like messing with my settings while I'm talking. It takes a little bit more like programming, and you have to get into like Unreal Script. How come this isn't working? I just can't get the balance right, can I? Maybe that's the best it's gonna get. Wow, I gotta really try to figure out how to focus and not get distracted with so many things so I can stay on topic. Um, but yeah, it also has Kismet, which is a visual scripting system, so that you can script really simple things. Like if you want to create a short first-person shooter adventure, where let's say you have to make your way through the facility and fight some AI, and then flip a switch, and then all of a sudden a timer goes is activated, and you need to get out of there before the place blows up. Like that kind of thing is really easy to create inside of Kismet. So that's one really great advantage of UDK. So and it's got some really nice visual effects, and I believe is it just free across the board? I think it's free, but you got to pay a higher percentage of like the profit that you make on your game. You have to give a cut to Unreal, I believe. I haven't checked that in a while. And then there is Unity, where Unity starts you off with a blank project and you got to code everything yourself or import, pre-made assets. But yeah, Unity is kind of more of like a blank canvas, and it's more simple. It's got a bigger community than both the other engines, so if you want to find resources on how to learn Unity, Unity is a lot easier to find resources, and people are generally more friendly with Unity, or so I've heard. And I think it gives you a little bit more flexibility, but I can't say that for sure because I haven't used any of the other two engines. Well, I dabbled in UDK. I didn't make a game in it or anything though. So hopefully that answers your questions. Will there be more show your work videos or live streams? Yes. I have to plan it out. I believe shortly after I do this, there are these two live streams today. I'm gonna come up with a schedule, but I want to do like a show your work Kickstarter edition. Well, I guess it would basically just be a show your work during the Kickstarter campaign. I don't really know how Kickstarter edition it would really be, but yeah, I want to do show your work again, but I want to bring it back, and I want to do it with a better system than I did previously, so that it's more organized, and so that I don't run into things like I remember before I played like somebody's game for like half an hour and then somebody else's game for 5 minutes, and then I like ran out of time and stuff like that. Will you be showing modeling, animation, texturing, importing in Blender? In the new tutorials, yes, I will be showing modeling, animating, UV mapping, and maybe a few other things in Blender. Maybe I'll get into texturing inside of Blender, but most likely I'm probably going to do all the texturing in GIMP. Maybe I can do some sort of like, I don't know, like you do like the basic colors of the textures in Blender so that you have a better outline of what you're going to do. And I know Blender has like, you can like scribble on the UV map. I'll look into that. Maybe I can do a little bit of texturing inside of Blender, because I know Blender also does some pretty good like ambient occlusion. Yeah, is it ambient occlusion? Yeah, ambient occlusion, lighting effects. But yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna learn a lot of cool things to do in Blender. Besides like pre-rendered 3D animations or anything like that. It's gonna be all geared towards video games. How is Prototype Recoil? Prototype Recoil, I kind of set aside for now. Maybe I'll come back to it. It's hard to say. I'm kind of just playing it by ear. Just like what seems to make the most sense right now is what I want to do. And right now, this tutorial series like makes the most sense for me to like spend all my energy on. So maybe once this tutorial series is done, I might pick up Prototype Recoil again, or I might move on to a new project. I think it's a little too early to say. Yeah, Andrew Price, or Brew, that guy really knows his stuff with Blender. Have you seen in his new videos, Fixing Blender? like how he's like he's creating his or he's using his huge audience to try to help out the Blender company and help them improve Blender. And like, I don't know, he's just like, he's a great guy, great YouTuber. Should you use a book? Um, I think that's highly dependent on, I think that's subjective to who you are and how you learn. I know me personally, I'm not a book learner. Like I don't know. I'm much more of a, get my hands into something kind of learner. Um, but if you're the type of person who reads a lot and just likes books and you can learn from books and like if you've learned things from books before and that was really effective for you, I would say yeah, then getting a book would be a good idea. I haven't read any Unity books, so I can't say firsthand. Um, I know there's a book by Will Goldstone, who now is I believe he works for PR in Unity. Um, uh, but I would just assume that that's a good book. I haven't read it, so I can't say for sure. But I just considering the stuff that he's done in the past, and the fact that he works at the Unity company. Oh, the Tornado Twins got a book. It's not about scripting though, if I recall correctly, unless they came out with a book since I last heard. It's more about, I think it's about project management. Um, yeah, I didn't read it. If I'm just trying to recall in my memory, I think it was more focused on like management. Yeah, I mean, I know Will Goldstone, he's really busy with making Unity official tutorials, which, especially the way that he's making his tutorials, they're so polished, and they're like practically entirely scripted, and he like goes, I don't know, it's like really, really well documented information. So I can definitely say I can relate with him, like with how much work that takes. Like, that takes a lot of work to create tutorials like that. And on top of that, he also has his job in Unity. I don't know, what his duties are or anything like that. But, I can definitely say for sure that he's a busy guy. Um, I assume that he's probably going to be mostly focusing on those tutorials. But if he does also come out with a book, that'd be cool. I mean, he's done it more than once in the past, so it's, possibly. What book is this? Oh, game design. Is this, maybe this is the one I'm thinking of. Yes. Yep. This is the book I was thinking of by Will Goldstone. So it's from Unity 3, but it should still be relevant information, especially in regards to scripting. Let's see. I won't be going back to the FPS 1 tutorials, just because I've improved a lot since then. Like, I don't think those tutorials are necessarily bad, but like going back, like I would want to do it from a fresh start. Um, like it's kind of like, I don't know. But to answer your question about the hands thing, just save the renderer, like create a renderer variable, call it say hands, and save that in the gun script, and then just basically do if being held hands dot enabled equals true. If being held is false, hands dot enabled equals false. And then in the inspector, you just drag and drop the game object that has the hands model on it and just drag and drop that onto the hands variable, and then it should automatically pull out the renderer component of that game object. And then when you do enabled true or false, that's basically turning the renderer on or off, or basically whether or not you can see the hands. So that is how you will make, or the simplest way I can think of to make it so that when you drop the gun on the ground, you no longer see the hands. Let's see, did you see my other comment about the rules on Reddit? I might have. The one where you're saying about, unless you did another one since then, where you said putting like the tags at the beginning. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to have too many rules, because like if there's too many rules, people tend to just skip over the rules. And people just tend to just do what they want. So it's better to kind of create a system where people can do what they want, and try not to structure people too much and give them more freedom. Like I've learned that like from the, what was it, the FPS1 problem diagnostic collaboration thread. That was too complicated. Like some people followed it, but most people didn't. Most people just do what they want. So that's the best way to design a system, is just design it around making it so that people can just do what they want. Do you see a great future for Unity? I do. That is a good question. It's definitely becoming more and more prevalent in the industry. So indie games, absolutely. Unity is extremely prevalent. Almost like, I don't know. I can't think of how many. Like I want to say like 50%, but that's just a number I made up in my head. But a lot of indies use Unity. So if you want to be an indie game developer, or you want to work with a small studio, or you want to do just contracted work on small projects, Unity is the way to go. Within the AAA industry, Unity is actually starting to become more and more prevalent. A lot of AAA developers are like falling back onto Unity. Like if they want to do their own personal project, they'll use Unity. Also Unity, a lot of AAA companies use it for what's called rapid prototyping, where basically they come up with a rough draft of a game just to be a concept to basically show off to, I don't know, like investors and publishers, or just the team. Just to get a very early idea of what the game's going to be like. So it's used for prototyping, and it's definitely used in mobile. Unity is becoming really, really prevalent in mobile. It's like, just like a lot of AAA companies, like, they'll have like their own like C++, OpenGL, whatever custom in-house engine that they use for like their main game, and then they'll also have like side products like for mobile, because the great thing about Unity is you just hit export and it goes to all the different types of devices. So Unity is just really flexible like that, and Unity just keeps getting better and better. Like it's still doesn't look quite as good as UDK. I mean it almost does. It's like so close, like they're almost indistinguishable, but I mean like with a very trained eye you can definitely pick out things that UDK does that Unity doesn't. But I'd say like the next few versions of Unity, it's going to be like the best engine probably. I don't know. I'd say the future for Unity is looking bright, and if you want to start a career in game development, Unity's probably a good choice. Depending on exactly what you want to do. Like if you're very set on joining a AAA company, my advice for that, and take this with a grain of salt because I don't work for a AAA game company, but my advice if you want to work in a AAA game company is to focus on a single skill. Because AAA companies, they do like people who are a jack of all trades. But that's not their main concern. Their main concern is, you know, they're going to hire you to complete a task, and they're going to hire the person who is best at completing that task. So your best chance for getting into a AAA company is to get really, really good at one thing. So if you want to be a modeler, get really, really good at modeling, like really, really specific. Like if you want to be a texture artist, get really, really good at making textures. But like, yeah, so just focus on one thing. But if you want to work with indies, I think indies put a much higher value on people who are a jack of all trades. Because with a small team, like, you got to be flexible and you got to complete just the tasks that need to be done. And when you know how to do a lot of different things, that's a lot more valuable in a indie company. So in a nutshell, take that with a grain of salt, because, you know, I'm not, you know, a millionaire indie game developer, or anything like that. So I'm just kind of going off of what I know so far within my experiences so far within game development and what I've read on the internet. Bad Piggies was made in Unity. Yes, that is a great example. Yeah, I mean, they made Angry Birds, so they obviously had the funds to use any engine that they wanted or create their own engine from the ground up, but they chose Unity just because it was easy and there was no benefit to creating their own engine for that type of game. Temple Run was Unity. Anti-procrastination tips. I am not the person to ask about that. That's hard. I do a lot of lists. That's a hard word to say. Lists. I do a lot of lists. And I just list out things that need to get done. And sometimes I'll try to order them or categorize them in the most important things first. And it's really just a matter of, you just gotta make yourself do it. One thing I like to do is crunch time sort of deals, where I'll like be like, okay, today I'm going to get this done. Like, treat it like a game jam. If you want practice, getting better at procrastination, join a lot of game jams and make a lot of games in game jams, because you have like the peer pressure of finishing your game. So you have like pressure upon you to finish the game within this very, very short time limit, and it really focuses you, and it teaches you how to really manage your time and really, really focus on only the important things. What's a game jam? A game jam, it varies depending on which game jam you do. But most game jams, like, let's take Ludum Dare, for example. Ludum Dare, I believe, is 4 times a year, and it's a internet game jam, which means that you don't need to meet all in one place. Like, I believe there's some game jams that are just, like, you go to, like, a convention and you make games there for a day or something. But it's more common to do an internet game jam where just everybody on the internet basically, like, comes together within this game jam, which is usually just organized by a website, and basically just say, you know, I'm going to create a game in 48 hours, or however long the game jam is. Some of them are a week, some of them are a day, some of them are 48 hours, some of them are 72 hours, some of them have rules or themes, and some of them have cash prizes, some of them don't. It really depends. It's just kind of a way of getting people together and motivated to make a game in a very short amount of time. And depending on the game jam, it can be, you know, different rules or strategies and stuff like that. So that's basically what a game jam is. Do you know a good place to learn modeling? I'm good at making non-human, but not humanoid. They will always look blocky, not fluid. I don't know any in particular. I would just say search on YouTube. I saw, like, there's a real science to doing humanoid characters. Like, it is definitely an art. Like, you have to make the vertices move with the flow of the face, and it's not something I've ever done. It's a real art. But I have seen a tutorial on it before. I can't think of any particular tutorial that I, like, watched all the way through, so I can't really recommend any. It's probably just the first one that will show up in a Google search. Basically look for a face with, like, very, like circles coming out of the eyes, like, just, like, the flow of the vertices around the face, like really match up with the anatomy of the head. I mean, I know I have seen some tutorials out there that are pretty good, but it's been so long and I can't think of which ones are the best. Blend swap. I've never used it, but I've heard good things about blend swap. Some important tips for presenting an indie game. Yeah, I guess I have a lot of tips. I'd say one, get a YouTube channel. I can't think of any reason, like, I mean, not like you don't have to be like a YouTuber, like you don't even have to talk on the microphone if you really don't want to. But post up gameplay videos of your game, like at least 720p video and 30 frames per second or 24 frames per second. Like, just make sure it's not laggy. And just document your work as you go. Don't think of YouTube as being a YouTuber the way you see like a lot of really big YouTubers. Think of it as just a place to reach people, a place to communicate with people. It's a community. Like, it's not about building up subscribers. It's about meeting people and talking about your project. Like, you can get a lot of feedback on your game. You can just get people aware of your game. You can meet people to work with on your game. And it's just a really great place to document everything, because screenshots only go so far. You really want video of your game, and YouTube is like the place to post video. Like, there's also Vimeo, but that's really, nobody really posts games on Vimeo. And YouTube is like the fastest for downloading. So yeah, definitely start a YouTube channel. Let's see, what else can I say for presenting an indie game? Like, if you want to release it and you want to sell it, one thing I would say is, I can't say this firsthand, like this is something I'm trying out for the first time, but put together a press kit. I actually saw a good video. Let me pull up this video. This was a good video. Okay, where was it? It was, oh, it's in my favorites. Let's see. Favorite videos. Here we go. This video here is a really good video. So, I don't know. I guess it should be pretty easy to find when you just have the title, but I'll just copy and paste the link. Oops, let's bring the chat back. Press kit is one thing that she talks about in this video. But basically what a press kit is it's making the job much, much easier for bloggers and journalists to write about your game, and just for people to find out information about your game. But you want to do stuff like, you want to provide them with really good screenshots, like host the screenshots too, whether it's on, probably you want to do Imager, but I don't know, PhotoBucket, your own personal website, anything like that. You want to host the images for them, also give them the option of downloading the photos. But you want to give them a lot of screenshots, just stuff to work with. Like if you just look at blogging websites and like tech review sites and stuff like that, you will start to notice patterns. Like they'll usually have like two screenshots, like one at the top, one at the bottom, stuff like that. And then like you also want to like almost write the article for them. Because one thing that she mentions in this video is that if you're not a really, really big game and you're not already really well known, they're not going to want to spend as much time talking about your game or writing about your game because they know that they'll be automatically more successful if they write about Mass Effect 3 or whatever just comes out. Because they know they'll get a lot of traffic because people will be searching that. So that doesn't mean they won't cover your game, especially if they cover indie games. but you want to make it easier for them. And sometimes they'll just copy and paste snippets out of your press kit. So you want to like give them stuff to work with, give them all the information so they don't need to Google search it. It's just all the information is there for them. And they can copy and paste some snippets if they want. And yeah, basically just do everything you can to make your job easier, or their job easier for writing the article. And also, you want to give them a free copy of the game. Any bloggers, journalists, YouTubers, don't even ask if they want a free copy. Give them a free copy. And depending on your distribution service, whether you're distributing it through your own website or something like Desura or Steam or Apple, it can be tricky distributing it, because sometimes they will give you what are they called, promo codes or just key codes to download the game, and sometimes they give you a limited amount. Sometimes it's like 50 for every update. Like I think that's what Apple's policy was. But if you can find a way to maybe distribute it through your own website and like do a promo code system on your own website so that you basically have unlimited keys, that would be the best scenario, so that you can give as many free copies as you possibly can to as many bloggers and Let's Players as you possibly can. Don't ask if they want it, because it takes more effort as a journalist or a Let's Player. It takes effort to reply back and say, yes, I do want it. Like 90% of the time I'd say they would. But if they have the key right there and all they have to do is copy and paste it and download it right then and there that second, they're more likely to play it. And it's much more worth it to get a Let's Player playing your game than it is to make one sale. So yeah, you definitely just want to give them a free copy. Trying to think of any other tips I can think of. Nah, that's about it. A lot of questions. What was your experience like with the App Store? Is it really viable to make an app these days without a huge budget to market it well? Good question. That's a hard question. It depends on your game. One thing I can say that I extremely strongly believe is that games for a phone or tablet are just absolutely in every way different from games made for a console or desktop computer. You have to make a game for the platform that you're targeting. See you later, Branscrum? I don't know. See you later. So I've seen a lot of people make games for phones with virtual controllers to attempt to emulate what it's like to play a game on a console. And that's just so wrong. They're just so fundamentally different. You're putting yourself into a hole of basically, I mean, I don't know. They're just fundamentally different. Like there's huge advantages to making a game with a touchscreen. And you're not taking advantage of those advantages when you're trying to make your game as if it's played with a controller, because it's not. You can't pretend like it is. You have to accept the fact that the two are extremely different, and you can't, maybe in the beginning you could rely on the fact that people just wanted games on the go. They wanted to be able to play on the bus or while they're sitting in a classroom. But there's so many games out there like that now, you really can't depend on that. And in the end, it's just more fun to play a game that has been designed for a touchscreen. So it's really, there's just different actions, like slingshot, like kind of like an Angry Birds. Like the slingshot mechanic works very well. I'm not saying like slingshot as in your interaction with the screen, not necessarily the game itself. Also tilting works pretty well, as long as you're not trying to replace a joystick. What else works really well? tapping things, slashing things. There's just way different motions. Oh, gyroscope for phones that have gyroscopes in them work really well. I love gyroscopes. They're so much fun. But yeah, so you want to build your game around those concepts. So where was I going with that? Is it worth it to go onto the App Store without a marketing budget? Only if you have a really, really good idea. I'd say another thing that you can do that will increase your chances is to do a simultaneous release of your game on both like computer, Ouya, Android, iOS, like every platform. Of course, that's going to limit your game a bit. You're going to have to create your game in such a way that it does work on all of these platforms. Because like design is the first thing you want to think of. Is you want to design something that's going to work well on the thing that you're going to put it on. So if you're going to put it on everything, you have to be really, really flexible with your design so that it works on everything. Ouya is an Android gaming console. I'll probably talk more about that in a minute, most likely. But what was I saying? But yeah, if you do it on everything and you build your game on everything from the very beginning, like you design everything, like as soon as you get a working prototype on PC, port it over to a phone and make sure it still works, and do that throughout the whole process to make sure it just works on everything. So it would be a little bit of extra work. It would be a little bit of extra investment. I mean, with Unity, not so much actually anymore. You wouldn't have to pay for any Unity license. You can get away with the free licenses. There's nothing wrong with the free licenses. You can make a full game with those. I think you'll have to pay for like the Google Play license, which is fairly cheap. I remember somebody saying it's $60, and that's a one-time fee, if I remember right. The Apple license is $100 a year, so that's more of a pain. And Ouya doesn't have any store license. That's free. And so yeah, so it's not too much of an investment to get your game on every single platform. Oh, there's also Windows Phone, but that might be a little overkill because there's not a lot of people with Windows phones out there. Not as many as Android and iOS, certainly. And I think you also need Windows 8 on your computer to export to Windows Phone. But yes. Where was I going with that? But yeah, if you do a simultaneous release on all platforms, if one of those platforms is successful, you're successful. And it can be kind of good marketing that way because people can discover it through a lot of different platforms. So that's one thing to think about if that might work for your game. All right, let's move on to another question because I've been talking about that one for a while, and I think I pretty much answered it as best I can at least. What is Ouya? Let's talk about that really quickly. Somebody else also mentioned how is Ouya going lately. So Ouya was a Kickstarter project, so it was a crowd-funded gaming console. So it's basically a $100 game console, and all the games on there are free to play. So that basically means there's a lot of demos to play, and a lot of really cheap games, and a lot of phone ports because it's Android. But it's a really cheap console, but because it's made by such a small indie company, it really shows. But they're getting better slowly. They're starting to improve their operating system, or not their operating system, I guess their Android overlay, which just their UI. They're getting better at that. They're getting a better selection of games, but I don't know. It's kind of up in the air. Like if you have $100 and you're like, oh, I want something to play on my TV from time to time. Like it's basically like, I would describe it as it's kind of like playing on a phone, except on your couch. Like, because in the sense of that you play for short amounts of time. Like you're not going to sit down in front of an Ouya for 5. You're going to sit down in front of an Ouya for like 45 minutes to an hour at a time. And probably once or twice a week. It's like, There's not enough content on there right now to make it like super worth it. But you know, $100, it's really not that bad. And you can pay that $100 and still have a lot of stuff to play. And there's a lot of games on there that are like $2 and $5 and pretty cheap games. And a lot of indie games, which I personally like. If you like AAA games, you're probably not going to like the Ouya. If you like AAA games, just get a used Xbox 360 and just play some older AAA games. You'll probably have a better experience. But if you really like indie games, you might have fun on Ouya. If you like developing games, you probably will have fun on Ouya, because it's really easy to port your games to Ouya. 3 inspiring games. It's hard to think of just 3. There's so many. I'm trying to. All right, let me think of games that inspire me. Braid. Ocarina of Time. I think I'm just naming off my favorite games now. The first Alien versus Predator. I don't know. That's hard to say. What games I get inspiration from really depends on what I'm currently working on. All right, let's see if I can fix this. This lighting is just bothering me so much. Okay, let's maybe do that. And then that. No. Let's do that. And then that. This is the most irritating thing ever. See, XSplit used to work pretty well. Whatever. I'll just have holes in my face during the live stream. Wonderful. But yeah, XSplit. So angry at it. It's the only software that does what it does, but it doesn't do it well. It's so glitchy. Minecraft. I guess Minecraft inspires me in the sense of its success and where it came from. Wow, look at all the holes. I'm going to try to ignore that. It inspires me from the fact that Notch, the creator of Minecraft, he just did what he wanted to do, and he created just a cool game that really took off. That's inspiring to me. The actual game itself, like the mechanics, don't inspire me personally. Like, I do like the level generation. It's pretty cool. And like I do like the freedom of that game and the fact that it allows people to create their own adventure. That is pretty cool. So I guess it's inspirational that way. But as far as like the game itself, like I wouldn't make a game and say, oh, this game has Minecraft inspirations from it. It's like, it's just not my style of game development. Portal 2. Yeah, Portal 2 is a huge inspiration. Well, it's hard to say because it's such a AAA game. It's hard to say how many elements of Portal 2 really would transfer over to an indie game. There's some things in there, I guess, that they did that could definitely inspire indie games, but I don't know. It's definitely really AAA. Limbo was an indie game. I haven't played enough Limbo to say too much about it. What is a AAA game? AAA game is basically a game made by a big company. So that's basically it's hard to, it's like saying big. It's like the difference between big and small. It's like there's no cutoff point as to what's AAA and what's indie. So there's no registration form to be a AAA company or anything like that. It's like, it's just down to opinion whether or not, like, a lot of people debate whether or not Minecraft is AAA or indie, because it's big, but it started off definitely as indie. But where it is right now, it's hard to say whether or not it's indie or AAA. But yeah, AAA basically just means really, really big. Like they have their own building. They have like hundreds of employees. They have a QA team. They have publishers. They have marketing agents. They have lawyers. They have, I don't know. Okay, I guess Cybertech has to leave in a moment, so I'll answer his question. What about Robot Zombies game will you do of that project? Are you going to sell it or publish it or continue to make it? How much time did it take you to make? If I can find time, I'll come back to it and I'll polish it. Basically add in the last few sound effects. That's pretty much the only thing that needs to be finished. That I really want to work on it. Yeah, I want to get the sound effects done on it eventually, but I hate making sound effects. I'm just not good at it. Maybe I'll go to freesounds.com and just revert to doing that, even though it's really hard to find high quality sounds on freesounds.com. But anyways, what was I saying? I don't know. I'm pretty much done with it. It was meant to be like a 20-minute long game. Actually, it was meant to be like 15 minutes. It ended up being 25 minutes approximately, depending on who's playing it. Actually, closer to like 30 minutes. So I'm probably just going to leave it as is. I don't like it enough to turn it into a full game or to go to a publisher. It's just going to be a free game. Free, more like, it's not necessarily a demo, because a demo would, a demo insinuates, is insinuate a word? I don't know. A demo suggests that there is a full game version of it, which there is not. It's just what it is. So I guess tech demo would be what it is. Robot Zombies was in JavaScript. I don't know what exactly you're saying about C# versus JS, like which is better or what the difference is between the two of them. Oh, and will you play our game? I'll play it during the Show Your Work live stream. Why not just watch YouTuber gameplay videos of their games and give them feedback now? You could do a Show Your Work live stream right now. I'll do a Show Your Work live stream later. It gets very messy if you do it like out of place. Like I've done a lot of them in the past before, and it's too messy to just do it spontaneously and not organized. Yeah, it has to be organized, otherwise things just go bad. I mean, feel free to put links to your game in the chat for other people to try, and I'll probably try them too, like after the live stream's done. Let's see, were there any other questions that I missed? Oh, C# or JS for the Kickstarter tutorials. I'm gonna do C#. The game's still in JavaScript, but yeah, C#. For, I don't know. I guess the trade-off is that it's gonna complicate the tutorials slightly more. Make them slightly more ambitious, but it was already very ambitious in the first place. And wow, lights coming in and ruining my video. But C# does work better with mono develop. You get better autofill, and it just it just works more clean, I guess. Not clean. I don't know. It's like it feels more like it's made for mono develop. I don't know. Mostly it's the autofill that works better. And also just popular opinion. It seems like everybody wants C#. It just, why make tutorials in a language that the majority of people don't want? Like, if I'm trying to create the ultimate tutorial series, might as well go with the language that everybody wants, and it seems to be C#. So, yeah, gonna be C#. I'm also going to attempt to do a smaller tutorial series, like a crash course, and that one's going to be going over JavaScript. So there still will be resources for JavaScript for those who want to learn JavaScript. And I think JavaScript is easier to get into for your first time. It's just it's less finicky. Like it caters towards your mistakes, or things you don't know more, and like the dynamic variable typing, and there's less quirks about it. It's simpler. Wow, I'm so distracted by like all these holes in my face. I'm gonna see if I can fix the lighting before the next live stream. Am I waiting for the new GUI? Yeah, I forgot about how cool that new GUI looks. I don't know how much I'll be utilizing it. Probably. I'll probably try. It would be a good idea to include in this tutorial series to some degree, if it comes out before I start making the tutorials. Maybe like it would probably be extremely useful to use in like menus, like pause menu, main menu, maybe a little bit in the HUD. But yeah, some of those new tools looked really cool. Will you be covering modeling and rigging in the Kickstarter tutorials? Yes, I will be covering those in Blender. Yeah, once you learn C#, yeah, I can, like, where I am right now, I can go back and forth between JavaScript and C#, no problem. You just kind of create like a list in your head of the things that are different, and everything else is the same, pretty much. What kind of funding am I looking to raise? Might be a good idea for everyone to know before, in case people disagree. I don't really want to announce it before. I do have a set price, or not price. Price is the wrong word. Goal. That's the right word. I have a set goal in my head, and it's heavily dependent on simply what I need. So whether or not people agree is kind of irrelevant. It's still like, if people disagree, it's like, well, here's the budget, like here's where the money's going, here's the money that is needed. Doesn't matter whether or not you agree, like this is what I need for this project. And also, you know, it's hopefully should be launched soon, but it's subject to change. So I don't want to name a price and then change my mind later. Like the price I have in my head is probably probably the price I'm going to use, but I don't know. What software do you want me to use? Oh, you're probably talking to somebody else. I saw that somebody was talking about modeling. When is the next show your work? I will announce that. I gotta schedule everything out. It depends on when I'm gonna launch the Kickstarter, and when I launch the Kickstarter depends on if I can get all of this work done on time, because I got a lot of work to go. I have a list of things I need to get done. But it's getting there. It's getting close. It's been close for a long time. I presume there's no simple way to create and animate humanoids. Sort of. Actually, there sort of is. It's not super simple. I'd say you can, if you want to create a original humanoid without modeling it yourself, use the program Make Human. I think there might be some problems with hair and just the fact that it'll be really high poly, but they might have updated it since then. I have seen some people recommend it for Unity, so hopefully that means that they created some low poly features in that program. So I'll get to that in a second. Alright, anyway, sorry, I keep losing my train of thought. So many like questions going on at the same time. So you can create a humanoid model in there, and then you would have to rig it in Blender. You might be able to also use, what's it called? Starts with an M. Maximo. That's a online service. Maybe that will help. Or you can just download an already rigged 3D model of a human. But Unity makes retargeting animations really easy, especially if you have the like Unity's recommended humanoid armature. which basically means you have a human skeleton in your model. So if you have a human skeleton, like I don't think it matters what proportions the skeleton is. Like it can be like goofy proportions, it can be realistic proportions, but it will retarget the animations quite well. And Unity also, on the Unity Asset Store, they have like a big pack of animations that you can download that are all motion captured. So you can use Mechanim inside of Unity, and you can retarget animations, and you can get some cool stuff that way without having to learn animation. I mean, it'll probably take a little bit of work to get it working, but it's not as hard as creating everything from scratch. So anyways, what's the Kickstarter for? The Kickstarter is for the new tutorial series. So the game that I've been working on, I don't know. I might as well play it in the background. Let me maximize on play. So here's the game that I'm working on. This is just one scene. There's not much style going on. This is just the character and a pretty ugly level at the moment. It needs a lot of work. Hopefully I can get something that looks okay before I launch the Kickstarter. But anyways, this is the new project. I'm going to teach how to create this game from the ground up. All of the artwork, all of the programming, everything. I'm going to teach everything, how to make this game. No previous knowledge required, so I'm going to teach everything from the very beginning. So it's going to be a beginner tutorial series. And yeah, and that's going to take a lot of time and work and resources to really make this project within the vision that I want it to be. And so I'm turning to Kickstarter to help raise funds to both help buy the time that I need to create this and for the resources. Like there's a couple of things, like as you can see, I'm having so much trouble with these lights right now, so I want to get new lights. That's one small investment. And website, I gotta update my website. Like I did get my website back up, but I gotta put on like an online store. And so, yeah, I gotta get the website all up and working. That's gonna take a little bit of cost for like plugins and stuff. What else is there? I had a list of things. Oh, I'm totally blanking. There are some other things. Crap, what were those other things? It'll come to me. I don't know, but there's just like little investments like here and there. But the biggest investment is time. It's going to take a lot of time. So basically, it's the extra money will help give me the time that I will need to create this tutorial series. Do you know about ActionScript 2.0? I don't know enough to talk about it. No, I actually don't even know what it is. I heard about it before, but Bub11, what's up? I would like to make PS1 graphics game. What would make my game much faster since the graphics are such low poly? What would make the game more performance optimized? Or do you mean like less time to make the game? Performance optimized, low poly actually surprisingly doesn't make a huge difference. It's the number of draw calls. So it's the number of, like, I think the biggest thing that slows down a game is the number of game objects in your scene, the number of like visual effects and shaders. Low poly equals faster is the question. Okay, does low poly equal faster? To a degree, like there is a ceiling that you can reach. Like if you have a model that's like 50,000 vertices, that'll be slow. But if you have a model that's like, say 5,000 vertices, that's really not that bad. Like the difference between a model with 5,000 vertices and a model with 8 vertices, there's not going to be much of a performance difference between those two models. There might be a slight performance difference, but not very much. It really comes down to draw calls, which has to do with lights, materials, meshes, and they basically all multiply on top of each other. So you have a draw call. What is it? You have one draw call for every mesh. Wait, no, it's per mesh, oh crap. I don't know, but like the more lights, the more meshes, the more materials, and all of that stuff increases the number of draw calls. And that's what really slows down your game graphically. But then there's also the CPU side, which all has to do with your scripts. And scripts, 90% of the time, they're just going to be fast. You don't really have to worry about it unless you're doing something wrong. Like if you are doing GameObject.find with tag every single frame, that's probably going to slow your game down a little bit. So there's little quirks here and there within script that can slow down your game. But for the most part, script usually doesn't slow down your game. Unless you have the same script running like 100 times in your scene. What's your job? I don't have any kind of a game development job or anything. I just go between regular whoever will hire me to do whatever type of jobs, just like teenager jobs, like I gotta pay my rent type of jobs. Like I used to work in a daycare. That was my last job. And yeah, I'm kind of at the point where I'm like, I really need to start looking for a job. And I was like, but that's gonna take like all of my time away from making this project. So that's why I'm turning to Kickstarter to hopefully buy myself some extra time. Will it end once you get where you are now in the project, or will it be a fully functioning game? Fully functioning game. It will be, yeah, there's a lot more work to go. I want to have everything. I want to have an options menu, a main menu, level select, save, story. However I end up implementing the story, I'm not sure about that yet. Probably not animated cutscenes. I might try to do cutscenes of some sort. Probably more like Ocarina of Time style cutscenes. Like with like text. Maybe I'll do voice acting. I might do voice acting. I kind of like doing voice acting. What else will be in there? I mean, it will be like a beginning to end game. It's not just going to be a tech demo. So yeah, it will be a fully functioning game, but I gotta build the entire game and totally polish it up. Like with the FPS 1 tutorials, I was making that up as I went. Like every episode, I figured out how to do it and then I taught it, and like I would make it up as I go. This time I do not want to do that. I want to complete everything, polish everything up, make sure it's perfect, and then do the tutorials. And I want to film all of the tutorials before I start releasing them, so that there's congruency from beginning to end throughout the whole series. How many animations does your character use now? That's a good question. Kind of a lot. Let me find my character, and I will show you where is my character? Prefab, camera. Oh, here, prefab player. Here we go. Let's find. No, here we go. Let's go to animator. Let's click that. Let's make it full screen. Oh, that's actually not that many. I thought there was more. So this is 2 animations right here. Running and idle, that's like a blend depending on your speed. So that's 2 animations. Land roll, land idle. So that depends, like when you land on the ground, depends on whether or not you're basically holding the joystick forward. Jump, double jump, fall, which fall is basically the same thing as jump, except like I just cut out the beginning where he actually does the jump part and he just jumps to the flowy part. And then there is this. So here's all the melee. So this is probably where the majority of the animations go. So there's 4 punches and 4 kicks, basically. So that's 8. let's see, 8. So I don't know. What is that? 15? 15 animations so far, but there'll be more. And I'll redo them. But yeah, it's kind of like bare minimum number of animations right now. Okay, a brief summary of how I made the character. Let's see, modeled him in Blender, did the armature in Blender, did the UV mapping in Blender. I did the animations in Blender. I don't remember if I already said that. And then I imported it into Unity. And then I did the textures. I actually did the textures in Photoshop just for the sake of time because I'm more comfortable with Photoshop. But I'm going to have to orient myself around GIMP a little bit. But from what I can tell, GIMP is like a lot like Photoshop. Just the buttons are in different places. So that shouldn't be too big of a deal. And I've used it a little bit before. So textured him. And then programmed everything. And also the player, the momentum, like his lean, when he like leans forward and back, when he's like starting running and stopping running. There's a empty game object parent that just rotates. It's like this hand is the character, this is the empty game object, so it rotates like around a pivot point by his feet, that basically just rotates based on the change in speed in the player, and that's how you get like that momentum leaning forward and backwards. And I'm going to be doing a tutorial on that before I launch the Kickstarter to give a sample of what I want these tutorials to be like in the end. Are you going to start from scratch, or are you going to use a pre-programmed 3D controller? From scratch. Everything from scratch. The 4 tools that we are going to use in this tutorial series are Unity 3D Basic, Rain, GIMP, and Blender. And all 4 of those are free on PC and Mac. So, nothing else. Oh, maybe Audacity, which is also free on PC and Mac. So I guess that's 5 programs. But Audacity we're just going to dabble in just for managing sound effects. But yeah, so creating everything from scratch. Probably not the sound effects. Just because the only way I know of to make sound effects is to take a portable microphone and record things and then edit them. And I don't even really know what I'm doing when I do sound effects. So I can't teach, like, I just mess around with it until I come up with something that works. I can't really, like, teach it. Plus, not everybody has a microphone like the one I do that's, like, portable and runs on batteries and records on an SD card. Why bother us asking newbies questions? Anyways. Is math and physics good for programming? Yes. I'd say like the math that you learn in school is a bit different than what you use in video games, but there is a lot of crossover, like trigonometry. It's very useful every once in a while in games. Like, I think it used to be more useful to have trigonometry in games, but nowadays there's a lot of stuff that takes care of that for you. But from time to time, I've used trigonometry in my games from time to time, and when I have, it's been incredibly useful. What other types of math are there? Basic algebra. I think you need basic algebra, a little bit of 3D geometry. That's probably about it. So you do use a lot of math, but it's much different than what you use in school. Like, you use it differently. You use it for a purpose. So, yeah. And physics, you either can, or you can either take it or leave it with physics. Like, if you want physics in your game, like, you don't have to program the physics yourself. You can always just create a game object that just has a rigid body on it, and you'll just use the engine's physics, and you don't have to worry about it. But, you know, knowing stuff about acceleration and gravity, and momentum and stuff like that, like, it can certainly be helpful. I mean, you don't, like, I'd say, like, if you're not good at math and physics, I'd say don't be afraid to try programming a video game, because maybe the math and physics that you're bad at is really just in the classroom. Like, just because a teacher told you that, you know, oh, you get an F because you didn't answer these questions correctly, that doesn't automatically mean you're bad at physics. You just might not be using physics in the right way. So, yes. Hey, Mr. Beto. Are you too late? Nah. Alright. Asking how to manipulate cube, which some tutorials on YouTube, it's the only way to learn the basics. How to manipulate cube? Like cube art? I don't know. Wait, okay, the question is back here. Where'd it go? I don't know. I do have plans on teaching how to do like power-ups. I'm gonna have the character have power-ups, but probably not different weapons, just because that's gonna be really time-consuming. Because what different weapons means is basically more animations. That's the biggest thing. Programming-wise, modeling-wise, wouldn't be that big of a deal. But it, like, doing more animations, like, it's really time-consuming. So I'll probably leave that out. But I do plan on doing like special abilities and superpowers and cool stuff like that. So there's going to be more than what you just see in the game right now. He's going to have abilities. I haven't finalized which abilities he's going to have, but my plan is to make it so you unlock abilities as you progress through the game. Did I do well at school? Nope. School was not for me. And that's actually kind of the theme of this of the storyline of this video game. Yeah, I was just I don't know. Just school was horrible for me. I hated school. To this day, I still hate it. Are you going to need a composer for the project? Probably not. I'm probably going to do all of my music from nosoapradio.us, which is a website you can go to download a bunch of royalty-free songs. And the reason why I want to do it like that is because I also want everybody to have access to free songs that they can use in their game too, so they don't need to look around the internet too much to find their royalty-free music, or they can just use whatever music they want, really. And I think I'll also be able to stick the music right in the project, in the Unity project, when I put it on the asset store. And that music's it's pretty good. And it'll match the theme of the game. So I think I'm probably just going to go with that. And I think a composer would add too much. It would increase the budget a lot. Because I would have to contract out one. And yeah, I think I'm more towards trying to keep the Kickstarter more manageable and smaller. I don't want to be over ambitious with how large I want the goal to be, and I don't want to, do too much. Yeah, as in background music. All right, yeah, I wouldn't mind hearing what you got later. Do you see Unity alive in the next 10 years? 10 years is a long time, but it's really hard to say. Like, I can't say yes or no, but I'd say there's a good chance. Yeah, there's a good chance that Unity will be still very big. I mean, if it is still alive, it will probably be like like almost like the #1 go-to engine, and it will probably be even like so much bigger than it is now if it's still alive in 10 years. Do you know how to make an animation loop over time? Because I have a train that goes past and it loops every second. Yeah, doing animation loops aren't too hard. And with Mechanim, it actually makes it pretty easy to loop animations. Like, it almost does it for you. But also in Blender, you can take the first keyframe and copy and paste it over to the last keyframe, and that will automatically make it loop smoothly, if that's what you meant. How old am I? I am 23. I had to think about that for a second. I just recently had a birthday. What's your computer processor? It's an Intel i7 something something K. It's a quad core with hyper-threading. Thank you. It's a quad core with hyper-threading. I can't remember the exact gigahertz, and I can't remember the exact model. But, yeah. I will open up that link for later. How to make two Blender mesh collide in Unity. A mesh collider component. You can't, I don't think you can do it with a skinned mesh. So if you have a character, like if you have a character with bones and your character can move, you are going to have to just make collisions, like put a bunch of capsule colliders onto the bones themselves, like as a component, so that it won't match up perfectly with the mesh, but it'll match up with the general shape of the mesh. But if it's something like, let's say, a gun, something that's static, that's not going to be moving, it's just a single mesh, just use a mesh collider. But if you have a rigid body on that game object, it needs to be a convex mesh collider, which there's just an option on the mesh collider component that just says convex, and you need to check that option when applying physics, or when you have a rigid body on the game object of that mesh. Will you be talking about, or talking at all about game design theory? I want to, yes. That's another thing I want to include in this tutorial series. I don't know if I'm going to make it like this tutorial series is also going to be everything you need to know about game design or anything like that, because game design is infinite. Like, you're never going to learn everything about game design. And it's very subjective to what game you're designing. But I do want to talk about game design within the context of the game that we will be making in the game tutorial series. So yes. Did I miss any questions? Can we help with sound effects or music? Possibly. Yeah, I haven't fully decided what I want to do about sound effects. Like, so far in the game, all the sound effects are mine, but I don't like them that much. I might redo them. I don't know. I don't like doing sound effects. It's such work for me. I mean, a lot of people like it's just not my forte. I mean, it can be fun sometimes, but hey, how's it going? I'm doing good. Sweet. New to the channel? Welcome. Oh, I forgot that this microphone picks up the sound of me swallowing coffee. So I need to move the microphone away from me whenever I swallow coffee. Are U.S. universities expensive? Yes, but I don't know compared to UK universities. I have never looked into how much it costs to go to a university in the UK. And by university, you mean like college or like a trade school, or or do you mean like high school? Because I know the difference between like the US and the UK, we have very confusing different names for schools or different levels of school. What will be the main goal of the game? Is it just defeating robots, or you have to collect something? It will be a platformer, brawler, adventure. So you'll be fighting robots. Basically, the goal of the game is to go through the adventure. So what you're doing at any particular time is probably going to vary, and what your immediate goal is going to vary. There might be a few puzzles in there. But yeah, so it'll vary throughout the game. But basically, in the end, it's just you have an adventure that lies ahead of you, and you must complete it, basically. And then there will be a story that, you know, it's not going to be a branching story or anything like that. So it's basically just going to be like you watch the story, and you play as the character. And also the story of the game is still a work in progress. And the gameplay and the tutorials are the main concerns. So if the story's not great in the end, that wasn't necessarily the main goal. Dang, that's nice. How much time you'll spend for a vid? How much time do I spend making a video? Like, in general? It depends on the video. Like, for a while, I was doing those GameDev Google search videos, which I give up on those. They just, some of them were kind of entertaining, but I think in the end, like, that was just, you know, I kind of got bored with making them, and I don't think they're the content that people want to see on this channel. So, but those only took me like an hour to make. The Let's Talk Game Dev, which I will continue, because I do like those videos still, and I think they're still very educational. I mean, depending on your level. I think if you're an experienced game designer, I think all of the stuff I talk about in those videos are pretty elementary. But if you're a very new beginner, I think that's pretty useful information. But what was I saying? Those videos take me about 2 hours, 2.5, 3 hours to make, depending on the video and how much time I spend perfecting the editing and if I know what I'm going to say before I say it, sort of stuff. And then tutorials tend to take me the longest. Standalone tutorials take me, well, usually I record for like 20 minutes. Sometimes I got to redo the recording because I'll like mess up like 20 minutes in. And then I also have to plan it out. I have to upload it and polish it up. And the tutorial, like a single tutorial, like if it's just a standalone tutorial, will take me anywhere between 2 hours and 3 hours to make. But with these new tutorials, I want them to be extremely polished. And it's going to be hard to say how much the single tutorials are going to take, but I'm guesstimating that the entire tutorial series, like this entire project, is probably going to be like a 6-month to 8-month long project. That doesn't mean it's going to be 8 months from now is when the tutorials are going to start coming out. But how long I'm going to be working on this game and these tutorials is probably going to be, I don't know, let's say 9 months to be safe. I don't know. Yeah, I do want to make the videos shorter. There's this weird thing. that not a lot of people realize about videos, and that is that it takes more time to make a shorter video, or at least a shorter video with as good of content as the longer video, because you have to script everything out, you have to manage everything you're going to say. Like, it's pretty easy to spend 30 minutes just in front of a camera, just winging it, just making it up as you go. But it's really hard, or it takes a lot of time to plan everything out and to film all of the different sections and do all that. So I do want to spend the time to make the tutorials shorter. That's something I definitely, I want like each episode to be 15 minutes max. I want them to be short episodes. I mean, maybe depending on the content, like I'd say like 20 minutes would be like the longest tutorial. Because I know I've had tutorials in the past that have been like 50 minutes, or like, I think I had a tutorial that was like an hour and a half. Like, I made long tutorials before, but I want to make shorter tutorials this time around. I want to make them more focused and get to the point faster. Do I have Steam? Yeah, but I don't really use it very often. What are the specs on my computer? I have an Intel i7 quad-core hyper-threaded CPU that's like, oh, I can't remember. Like, maybe it was like 3.2 gigahertz. I think, I can't remember the exact processor. Graphics card is a 660 Ti, a GTX 660 Ti, I believe. That's plenty powerful for me. I have like 16 gigabytes of RAM, which in retrospect was actually kind of a waste because I don't think I've ever utilized over 8 gigabytes of RAM. So I think 8 gigabytes would have been plenty. But I think the difference between 8 gigabytes and 16 gigabytes was like $50 or something. RAM is fairly cheap, so I was like, at the time I was like, I might as well, just in case. So it wasn't the biggest loss in the world. And then I have a hard drive, a 2 terabyte hard drive, and like a 128 gigabyte SSD, an Intel SSD. SSDs really speed up the performance of your computer, but you can hardly store anything on them because they're so small. What else is on my computer? That's about everything. An Asus motherboard, which doesn't really have any effect on performance. And then I think I have a Corsair case, which obviously doesn't have effect on the performance. What's my Steam name? I'm gonna leave my Steam name not public. If I find a reason to make it public in the future, maybe I will. I'll probably start a new Steam account if I do that. But I'm almost never on it, so. Oh, what monitor? I have an Asus ProArt. I don't know the exact model. And I also have a really old HP VS17E. It's like a, what's the resolution? It's like something by 1024. Like it's one of those really old monitors. And I just use that as my second monitor. But my main monitor is this Asus ProArt. It's like a 23-inch. The screen resolution is 1920 by 1200. So it's slightly taller than a 1080p screen, which I really like. Like for watching videos, like you can have your like video playback controls at the bottom, and it's not cutting off your 1080p image. And it's just that extra little height is more than you would think. And it was like a good price. I don't know. It's a good monitor. I like it. Oh, sure. I can show that. The running an idle tree. So here it is. Can you read that all right? Maybe I can zoom in. me. Let's just do that. There we go. Okay. So here's the running and idle blend tree. So if I double click it, you can see here it is. So let's go up a layer. So that's just treated as an animation state. So basically, what are my conditions? I gotta unfull screen it for a second. Okay. It's just based on exit time. Which, can you even see? No, I don't think you can see. Actually, if I do that, there. And let's just move my windows around. Move that over. Oops, move that over. Move that over. Actually, wait, now let's move that there. That there, and that there. Okay. Now I think we can see it. Okay, there we go. That's perfect. All right, so here's the transition. Just when the land roll animation is finished, it transfers over back to this blend tree. Same with idle. Just when the animation is finished, it transfers back over to here. So it's just a simple animation state. And then with inside of that, I have three. It's kind of ghetto rigged at the moment. I have three different animations set up. Why can't I select this one? Not sure what's going on. Oh, well, whatever. So I have idle, so that's where he's just standing there. I have the first run, which is the running animation, but at a slower speed. And then I have running animation at full speed. And basically, I just have the speed variable. As it blends, it just blends between these three animations. And that's what changes the way he's running. And that's basically it. It just measures the speed from the player script. Okay, here's a good question. If I was putted to choose another engine, so like if I had to choose another engine, what would it be? That is a good question. UDK definitely comes to mind. There's things I like about that engine for sure. Probably not XNA, just because Microsoft discontinued it, and I wouldn't want to get into it now. Like, if I was already into it, I might still continue to use it a little bit. But since it's discontinued, I wouldn't do XNA. So I'd probably do Unreal, because I feel like my style of game development doesn't necessarily need my own engine. Like, I'd say I can't think of any other engine besides Unreal that I would want to make games on. And the only other one I could think of would be to create it from the ground up, which would mean I'd need to come up with my own graphics pipeline, my own collision detection system, and all my tools, and all of that. And that's like just unnecessary work. That's like reinventing the wheel. So I would probably go with UDK. The second part of that question is how long did it take me to become decent at Unity? I don't think there was a cutoff point as to when I became good at Unity. I think it was a gradual. It's still ongoing. I keep getting better every day. It's a skill that you just keep working at and you keep getting better at. I don't think there was a cutoff point as to when I got good or anything like that. Yeah, I think it was a pretty gradual learning curve. Would I do CryEngine? If I were making a first-person shooter, maybe. But that kind of stuff doesn't really interest me as much. It's not the part of game development that I like the best. I like inventing new things and new mechanics, and really changing how the game is played. That's the part that I really like. And CryEngine wouldn't really let me do that. I mean, I'm sure you can reprogram it to a degree. I mean, I'm sure you can completely reprogram it if you really want to, but yeah, I think it's like if you're gonna go with CryEngine, you're gonna want to make a first-person shooter, hands down, like no questions asked. Um, so yeah, I probably wouldn't. I don't think CryEngine is for me. Yeah, I don't really like. I mean, CryEngine is a game engine, but I don't like the fact that a lot of people tend to. Well, I guess I don't. I've never seen anybody like adamantly say that CryEngine was like this, but it seems like a lot of people treat it as an engine for making a game, and it's a game engine for modding a game. I There's a huge difference. Like they're both related. They're both cool. They're both really cool things to get into. Um, but you're not creating a game. You're modding a game. So at least that's the way I look at it. Do you know Extra Credits? I do. I love Extra Credits. That is such a good show. I learned so much. Like if you look at my favorites playlist, I might have more than one of their episodes in there. I at least have one. But yeah, Extra Credits. If you don't know about them, go subscribe to them. They have so much good information on video games. Are there any must-have extensions for Unity for beginners to have? No. Of course, there's a lot of cool extensions, but there's no must-haves. Um, it depends on what you're doing. If, like, I would say Rain is a must-have if you have AI in your game. Like, if you're looking to put some pathfinding in your game, Rain would be a must-have. But if you're just doing something simple in the very beginning and you don't need super advanced AI in the very beginning, I'd say keep Unity blank. If you're a real beginner, just get used to Unity and learn what Unity is and everything that Unity has, so that by the time you want to start adding extensions, you know how those extensions are separated from Unity, and you only use them when you need to, and you rely on them a little less. So yeah, I'd say if you're a true beginner, yeah, just start with a blank project and build everything that you can and figure out what you're good at making, what you can learn how to make. And then later on down the road, you can figure out I'm not good at this, or I just don't like doing that part. And then you can like import that from somewhere else. And then focus on what you are good at. But I'd say like in the beginning, you should try everything, before you dismiss it as something that you're bad at. Floats can be really useful in Mechanim. I have a float for speed, and the rest of mine are true and false booleans. So speed is really useful for like a blend tree. I think floats are more useful for blend trees. I've also used them like if this float is larger than this amount, start the running animation and stuff like that. So they definitely have their place. Like you can set up a whole Mechanim spider web with all true or false variables. And that might work perfectly for your game. But yeah, they definitely have their use. Would it be possible to make a mod of a Unity game? Absolutely. Um, it's just a matter of getting the project files. Like if the project files are made available to the public, or if you can buy them or anything, then yeah, you can absolutely mod it, but it's not too common. You can't just like use the .exe file and open it up that way or anything like that. Like, you might be able to hack your way into it and pull out some of the models, but I mean, that's kind of a dumb thing to do. Like, it's just really rude towards the developers and usually against their terms of service, and falls into the category of like pirating. But if they make their project available, which every once in a while some people make their whole projects available, that's something I'm going to be doing. Then you can mod that, and it's definitely yeah. I don't know if it's like illegal as in you'll get arrested, depending on how far you take it. I don't know. I think technically it's illegal. It's like definitely copyright infringement. I've never programmed a real robot before, so that's hard to say. I imagine things would just be less exact. Like, within programming inside of a video game, you can make things work exactly how you want them to work and make them look like they're working. Whereas with a robot, you need to make them actually work. I can't talk too much about that though, because I've never programmed a robot. Is getting a paid game for free illegal? Not if the developer gives it to you, or you get it in some sort of giveaway, or some sort of coupon, or some sort of promotion. But if you download it through a torrent on Pirate Bay, yes, that is illegal. Did I ever play Rocksmith? That's the one where you plug a real guitar into the Xbox, right? I tried it once, but I'm not good at guitar. I can definitely see where if you wanted to learn guitar, that would be the way to go. That is a good question, Disfigured. I have designed for mobile before. I made a game called Galaxia Interface for iPhone. That was a few years back, and it's no longer on the Apple Store, unfortunately, because Apple charges $100 a year, and nobody could find my game because the only thing they could find was like Angry Birds and all of those gigantic games like that. So I was getting like 0 downloads, and it cost me $100 a year, and I'm like, screw this. It's not worth it. But yes, it's hard to figure out. I think you have to kind of make a decision early on and say, how old of phones do I want to support? Because like newer phones are really fast. You can get away with a lot. But if you want to support older phones and cheaper phones, the only sure way of knowing is to test, or find other Unity games that were made on that phone and see what they were able to get away with, and you can ballpark it. You can ballpark it and try to figure out like what you can get away with. One thing to keep in mind though is that it's also like, I mean, mobile phones will have a lower ceiling for vertices, but the draw call still applies, and the number of game objects in your scene has a big effect on how fast your game is running, and also what like visual effects and what shaders you're using has a big effect, and how clean and performance optimized your code is can have a big effect too. So yeah, it's hard to say. The only real way of knowing is to test it. So like let's say you're designing a game for iOS. You could buy a second generation iTouch, like a used one on eBay or something if you can find it. Like by now, those things are really, really cheap. Like you could probably find one for $60, maybe like 80. I don't know. Yeah, you could probably find one for like as little as $60. Um, oh, yeah, I did play Super Hot. Um, that was a cool game. Or wait, did I play it or did I just watch it? I can't remember now. I think I just watched a video of it on Rockley Smiles. But yeah, uh, yeah, I'd say the best way to know is to just buy the cheapest, oldest device that you can that you want to support, and just test it and see if it works on there. And that should give you a pretty good idea. Um, oh, am I accepting downloads? I will consider it. I gotta look into it and figure it out because the biggest thing is honestly I just don't want a virus. um, and I'm just cautious that way. Just because if my computer were to get a virus, that would like destroy all my work, and it would be a huge setback. I'd probably just have to buy a new hard drive. That'd probably be the biggest thing. But yeah, it's just a precautionary thing. If I can find a way to do it safely, um, I would allow it. It also does take more time to download it, and like install a .exe and all that. So it would take a little bit more pre-preparation. So just doing it in browser does make it faster and easier on the live stream too. Um, Emulators work. I haven't used Android or iOS emulators very much, but from what I've heard is they can give you an idea of um, they can give you a good idea, I think. I haven't used them personally, so I don't know. But it's from what I've heard is they're never going to be as 100% accurate as just testing it on the device itself. And then you also have to worry about like, input latency and stuff like that. Is there a fog option? Oh. Yes, young developer. I actually saw an asset on the asset store, which I think does exactly what you're talking about making multiple terrains seam together. Um, I don't have any firsthand experience on using extremely large terrains. Um, so I don't know. I can't even begin to remember what the name of the asset was, but there was something that like seams them together. Like you like model them and you get them close, and then it like perfects them for you. Like it makes that seam go away. And then I would imagine from there you could like OMFG Kara said, you can use fog to hide bits of terrain popping in and out so that you aren't rendering every bit of terrain. Or you can also just use a far clip plane on the camera so that you can't see any of the terrain from too far away. How do you make a game for Ouya? You pretty much just go to File, Build Settings, switch to Android, and then in Player Settings, set it to Landscape Right. And then you fiddle with your input settings and mix around the buttons until you get the Ouya. Um, yeah, isn't your name? Oh, I did say OMFG Kara. What is it? OMG, it's Kara. Oh, okay. But yeah, that's the basics of how you make a game for Ouya. It's pretty straightforward and pretty simple. Oh, and then you switch around the shaders to be optimized mobile shaders, and then you're pretty much set to go. There's not too much else you need to do. You could use a virtual machine. That's a pretty good idea. I'll look into that. I imagine that I would need to buy an operating system, though. Oh, how do you export it to the platform? Like, how do you actually get it on the Ouya? There's actually a lot of different ways. I have done, well, I don't know how many different ways there are, but I know of 2 ways. The first way that I used was Dropbox. I exported the APK file out of Unity, which ended up being like 23 megabytes, so pretty small. Uploaded that to Dropbox. And then on Ouya, I went into the web browser, went to Dropbox.com, logged in, downloaded it. And then when it was finished downloading, I just selected the download inside of the storage memory management settings. And then I selected install and then open. And that was it. The easier way that I do now that the application has come out for it on Ouya, there's an application I believe just called File Manager, or like Ouya File Manager. And then you just save the APK file onto a flash drive. You plug that flash drive into your Ouya, and then you just use the File Manager, and you just find the USB drive, and then you find the game, and then you just select it. You select install, and then you click open, and it opens. And that's it. It's really simple. It takes a few seconds, really. Why do you think games like Temple Run and Angry Birds get so absolutely huge? That's a good question. Like, there's this game that I played recently called Dumb Ways to Die, which if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's basically WarioWare, but with a really, really good trailer for the game. But I'd say like the trailer for that game is better than the game itself. It's like this little like musical number. It's like, it's so funny, and I don't know. It's where was I going with that? I don't know. But there was a reason why that one was so popular, and it's just because it just had such a good... It was basically like a viral video. Like, they just made such a good video that on its own, that video would be a viral video, and probably is a viral video. And that's probably why that game became so successful. Probably another reason is that they're free to play. They're accessible to everyone. I think that's another big thing, is that it's not geared towards gamers. It's geared towards the entire population. I think another reason, I mean, it probably depends on the game. Like Farmville, I'm going to use Farmville for an example, and why that became so popular. And that is because it was a farming game. Not like farming as in growing crops, but farming as in you collect things pointlessly. Like Edmund McMillan talked about this in Indie Game the movie, or maybe that was a behind the scenes thing. But it basically it comes down to you show the player false rewards for doing mundane tasks. So like Farmville, you grow all your crops, and like there's no strategy. You just click on crap. It's boring. Like and it gives you like, if you keep doing it for this long, you're going to get this reward, and they don't tell you what the reward's going to be. They basically say like, here's this thing that you could get. You might want it. You never know. It's a secret. It's a surprise. And then you get it, and you're like, oh, this is crap. Well, let's see if the next surprise is what I want. And then people get addicted to it. So it's really abusing human psychology. Um, and that's how that got popular, is just so many people got addicted to it and people playing all day. Um, it's hard to say how like Angry Birds and Temple Run got so popular. I'd say, definitely a key element was that everyone can play those games. They're so easy to learn how they work, and they're absolutely accessible to everyone in every age and every demographic. So that's one thing. And they're just really, really polished. Um, Beyond that, I don't really know. Probably marketing. Um, are you adding force to your spaceship, Enchanted Dice? Because if you're just moving the position, it will clip through things. Or maybe you just have um, just something not quite set right with the collisions. Do I know where you can buy Ouya in Europe? That's a good question. I would attempt to contact the Ouya company. They're really good about responding to those sort of things because they're a small company, and like their user interaction is one of their like biggest strong points. So if you ask them, I would assume that you shouldn't have very much trouble getting in contact with them, or find somebody else who knows. Um, yeah. Uh, Beyond that, I don't know how else you could get an Ouya if it's not like readily available in your country. I mean, you can get it on Amazon, I believe. Um, so if you have Amazon available in your country, you should probably be able to get it. Yeah, it's cool they're putting Ouyas on the shelf. That's the thing that the Ouya really needs. I mean, well, no, Ouya just needs a lot of improvements. I believe that Ouya will be pretty awesome once Ouya 2 comes out, but I think this Ouya, the first Ouya, is going to just be rough all the way through. It's been a rough ride so far. Um, yeah. How long are you expecting this stream to go? I was just thinking I should probably end it pretty soon, because I'm going to be doing another stream in 5 hours at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I'll probably wrap this up pretty soon. Because I also can't make it too long. How long has it been? Since 1? So it's only 2 hours. So as long as I keep it under 3 hours, it should upload to YouTube pretty okay. I've watched the recordings before. Like, I can't hear it when I swallow coffee, but I've watched recordings before where I've like swallowed coffee and you just hear the liquid going down. It's like, that's gross. I had no idea it was making such a gross sound. Yeah, it would be pretty funny. I bet you there is going to be some overlap of people in the two live streams. But who knows? I'm sure there's going to be some people who, can make one live stream but not the other. In Portugal, you have a store just called Game. Can I name drop some more good channels like Extra Credits? Okay. Um, what do I know? So there's Extra Credits. Um, I'm trying to think of ones that really focus on game development and not just games. Um, Indie Chatter was pretty good for a while, but he hasn't made a video in a long time. Um, anything, any interview with Jonathan Blow. Just search interview Jonathan Blow. Like, he's done so many interviews, and I love to watch his interviews because he is so interesting. Like, he's just, I don't know if he's better at making games or doing interviews, but that should hopefully take up some of your time, just because his interviews are usually about an hour long, and every single one of them are so interesting. So that's not a particular channel, that's just something to Google search because he's all over the place. So Jonathan Blow, search him up. Indie Game the Movie, that's not a YouTube channel, but that's a pretty good movie. What else is there? Rockley Smile. Rockley Smile is pretty good. He's like interested in game development, but he hasn't done too much. Like, I think he said he did modding, but I don't think he's ever made a game before. But he's usually pretty on the ball with technical things about video games, and he plays a lot of really indie games and a lot of like Ludum Dare or Game Jam games and stuff like that. And just the games he plays are really interesting and inspirational and really applicable to small indies. What else do I know? There's not a lot of game development channels. There's a lot of game development tutorials, but there's no like just like YouTube channels that you just like sit down and watch. I was just looking at design3.com. They have a lot of interviews. Like they had a lot of interviews from GDC on their website. I was watching one of them. It was pretty interesting. So you can find some interesting interviews there. Yeah, maybe that would be a good page on my website. List of interesting links of things to check out. Yeah, Quill Creates. Yeah, he just has like tutorials, and I think he just has tutorials on that channel. And then he has this, was it like Quill 18, his like normal channel, and that's all Let's Plays for like strategy games. Oh, Solakin Games, I probably pronounced that wrong, I'm sorry, has a game development channel. Have I ever considered forming a team? Yeah, I've considered that a lot of times. I just haven't yet. For this particular project, like I was actually considering forming a team for this project, but in the end, I kind of realized I'm like, well, if I'm going to teach everything, I have to be the one doing everything. So for this particular project, I got to do it all myself because I can't teach how to make something that somebody else made. But one of these days, I really want to form a team, but it's something you got to be really cautious of. You got to be really, really cautious of who you join a team with, because there's always going to be a huge chance that that team's just going to fall apart and you're never going to get your project done. Or they might be really lazy and you can't rely on that person. So you got to be really cautious of those types of things. And I think that's definitely something that has been, you know, stopping me from forming a team yet. So that'll be another thing. I just got to find the right people to do it with. How you see Dice Engine? Oh, Battlefield 4. It looked pretty cool. I haven't played it. The destruction in that game looked cool. But I don't know how real it is. It might be really real. I don't know. I haven't looked too much into Battlefield 4. It looks pretty cool. Oh, hey, it's Jester. How's it going, Jester? Did you hear we launched the new Rain? I did not hear that. I knew it was coming very soon. So it's officially launched now? Actually, there's a link. There's already a link in the description below to rivaltheory.com. So if you scroll down on Twitch or Twitch TV/utski, but yes, that's awesome to hear. So we can officially say that rain is available. That is really cool. Sweet. All right, everyone. Rain is officially available. Oh, sweet. Yeah, I have a Rival Theories YouTube channel linked on the side of my YouTube channel. If anybody wants to find the Rival Theory, those 2 videos that Jester is talking about. No problem. Yeah, Rain is an awesome product. I love it. So, that's awesome. Yeah, I really liked using it so far. It's definitely something, like, if anybody like talks about AI, I can't think of anything else that's better. It is definitely going to be the AI I'm going to recommend. Have you played any great indie games recently? I played, what was it? Another World on Ouya, which originally was for SNES, I believe. That game was really interesting to me. It was a one-person project, I believe. I think it was just one person that made that game. And, like, every 10 years, he, like, re-updated it. So, like, he recently came out with, like, the 20-year anniversary, I believe, if I remember correctly, which basically meant he ported it to Ouya with updated graphics. But just that game was really interesting to me. I guess I wouldn't say that's a recent game because it's like 20 years old. I believe it came out in 1990. I researched it because I found it so interesting. But it's like, I don't know, it's this game where there's checkpoints every 2 seconds, but you can die so easily and you have to do everything perfectly. And it's just such an interesting adventure that is told with no words. It's all action. Like, you just see what the characters do, and the entire story is told that way. And it is really awesome. Oh, okay. So Solo King Games is the new Chrome games. Okay, got confused as to who you were. Yeah, Another World is really cool. There's this other Ouya game that I was playing that I found really interesting called Def, DEF. And that game, what I really liked about it was the tutorial on how to play that game was story. And there was stuff like, you're talking to this alien creature and you're asking them like about the mechanics that are going on in the game, and you're like, how do these turrets work, or like, what are those enemies doing? And there's like parts where like just storyline wise, like the character would be like, he's like, you know as much as me, and like the developer obviously knows what's going on, but like they pretend like they leave out information. So it's just kind of cool how they like skipped over having a tutorial and ended up just having story, and just being like, okay, let me tell you how to use this. Oh crap, no, the enemy's coming. I don't have time to explain. Just do your best. And like, I don't know, I just thought it was really interesting how they did that. And they added a lot of story into this game that was essentially just neon pixels and squares, and there were no real graphics, but it fit so well into the story. So that was a small indie game that I really liked. That I'm still trying to beat. It's so hard. It was easy at first, but like the level I'm on right now is so hard. How can I implement the Steamworks into Unity? I haven't used that myself. I would assume that Steam has got some kind of documentation to tell you how to do it, and there have been a lot of Unity games on Steam, so it's definitely possible. So I assume that Steam, they have to have some sort of documentation to tell you how to do it. What do I think of the graphics you can get with Unity? I think that Unity is to the point now where your graphics are going to be as good as your artwork. Like if you take a 3D model and put it in Unity and put it in, let's say, CryEngine. You take the exact same model, exact same texture, and you put it in both engines. For the most part, they're going to look identical. It's not about, like, it's not like the one engine is going to make the model look better. It's still like that's what the model looks like. Those are your graphics. Like graphics is 99% artwork, 1% rendering. So yeah, CryEngine is gonna have slightly different rendering. Like maybe it'll just be a little bit smoother, feel like it has a little bit more volume. It's really hard to say. Like I've like looked at like the difference between like UDK and Unity and like studied them, and I like look at it and I go like, I know they look different, but I can't figure out what it is. But I mean, for the most part, it's your artwork. It doesn't matter what engine you stick it in. Your artwork is going to be your artwork, and your artwork is your graphics. So I think that Unity is plenty powerful and has all of the tools that you need to display your artwork the way it was meant to be displayed. So it really comes down to just what artwork you can create. Let me see. What can I say about these? This is hard to say because I don't know. I mean, this is a great model, but I am guessing that this is pre-rendered. So it's not real-time rendered. Oops. I messed up the chat. I'm trying to get the chat back into place. Okay. Dang it. And good enough. So anyways, this is probably pre-rendered, which means it probably went like let's just say it's Blender. Like it probably went through light cycles. It definitely has a much more extreme version of anti-aliasing than Unity would have. It's just got lighting effects that Unity wouldn't have. It just has like a lot of effects on it that just can't be rendered in real time. Like there's not too many. Like you could potentially make it look almost exactly like this in Unity, or at least very close. I mean, you could get it very close. Like look right here, the shadow of this little nub. There's like a shadow falling onto right here. The shadow is not going to look like that in Unity. The shadow is going to be a bit more pixelated, and things won't be quite as smooth. So I don't know. There's a huge difference between something that's pre-rendered and something that's rendered in real time. Not to say that those models wouldn't look good once you import them into Unity, but you do have to be careful that, you know, if you're creating a model for like a game, you have to make sure that all of your effort towards making that model looks good. Make sure all of that effort goes towards making it look good in real time. So if you keep on like pre-rendering it, you're going to make it look good pre-rendered, but it won't look as good in real time. Oh, that would be sweet. Enhanced dice. Yeah, if I wouldn't mind that at all. If we'll save showing any more models for show your work. I gotta wrap up this live stream anyways. It's actually been an hour longer than I originally intended, which I kind of figured would happen. That's what tends to happen with all of these live streams. Yeah, that's true. Like when you're pre-rendering something, you can have a texture that's just gigantic, and it doesn't matter because in the end, it's just going to be an image or a video file. Um, and you can have the highest vertice count you could imagine, and it doesn't matter because it's going to be pre-rendered. Whereas in real time, you have to take into consideration that you want to make that texture as small as you can, and um, you want to keep your vertice count down to a reasonable number. So you really have to take those into consideration too. You also have to take into consideration what types of like bump mapping or normal mapping, or like what if you can get any DirectX 11 effects in there. 2048 are good texture size for an FPS game gun model, but the model is odd and wasn't made for a game back then. Um, yeah, 2048 you can get away with, um, but that's like leaning towards the end of it's going to make your file size for your game bigger, certainly, and it will. Um, most computers nowadays, texture file sizes like that are no problem. Um, I think actually I might have actually on Ouya had some textures that big. Definitely like 1024 by 1024. I've had textures that big on Ouya and it ran perfectly. I think I did have 2048 by 2048 textures on there and it still ran very well. So yeah, you can get away with that texture size. All right. Well, I guess this is probably a good as time of any to wrap up the live stream because I actually didn't even eat breakfast yet, so I'm kind of hungry. Oh, dang, that sucks, Lego. Thanks, Norit. Okay, I'll quickly answer just figures question. Unity Pro, you don't get the Unity logo when you first start up the game. That's just a minor thing. Yeah, shadows, image effects, um, what are they called? Movie textures. I don't know if they're called movie textures, like video textures, like textures like that can move. Um, uh, Occlusion calling, um, nav mesh, AI pathfinding, which is kind of irrelevant now with rain. Um, and what else is different? Oh, you get like performance optimization, monitoring, like you can like see where your performance is going in the game. It's got some tools like that. Um, I think you can also do stuff like you can not include different parts of the engine if you're not using them. Um, and maybe a few other things I can't remember. Oh yeah, the black skin. The Unity looks different, which isn't that big of a deal. It doesn't affect how you work. It's just kind of like it does look better. I think it's like nicer on the eyes. Um, that is a good question. Like, do you just have your camera pointing at the player and the camera moves with the player, or is the entire level that resolution? Um, that's hard to say because it'll change with the aspect ratios. I think you can just do screen dot resolution. I think it's something like that, and you can access the current resolution of the game or of the screen, and then you can figure out the new resolution that way. Yes, I'm doing another live stream later at 8 o'clock or 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yes, Stubbing My Toe is the programming guru. Okay, looks like I'm caught up on the questions. Alright, well, I better go before this video gets too long and I'm not able to upload it to YouTube. So, we're getting close to 3 hours. I think the longest I ever uploaded was like 4 hours. So, yes, so I will be back on fairly shortly now. This is going to take up the majority of my day. I want to film a video of my iPhone game today. I'm going to see. I should have time to do that. I'm going to try to do it. But yes, I will see you all next time, next live stream, whenever. Yes, okay. Well, I will see you all later. I guess the chat window should still be working after I end the live stream, and I will be back at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, I will see any of you that happen to join that live stream too, or whatever. I will see you all later, and I guess until then, keep making games. And I'm going to let this rest for a second, because I remember it sometimes cut me off. So I'll end it now. Alright, see ya everyone.